So in my last video, I mentioned something which was apparently misunderstood. Um, the as I understood the argument against what I said, I agree with the argument against what I said because what I said was misunderstood. So, for a little bit of clarity, um, it was about when I said something about, if all scientific knowledge was lost, that wouldn't really pose a problem because all of the important parts could be recovered because they're true. Right. That delving a little bit deeper into that, there's two basic things that a claim can be, right? It can be correct or it can be false. Right? So if you have a whole collection of claims, like the body of science, some of them are going to be correct and some of them are going to be false. And ideally, we don't want the false ones. That's garbage. So if we were to lose science and some other culture were to come up, you're still going to get the correct stuff. And you're going to get different false stuff. But ultimately, there's no loss because the true stuff is true and rediscoverable. That's why I mentioned um, like an ethnic cleansing or a genocide, right? That little bit where I went into, if you wipe out an entire ethnic group, yeah, it's bad for a couple reasons, and one of them is obviously that you're murdering a crap ton of people. That's no, don't do that. But the other one is that you're losing a unique culture, and when you lose a culture, you lose it forever because there are major aspects of it which are random, like the false components of science, right? The false claims that are integral to science. That's what I was intending to allude to, but it wasn't the point of the video, so I just kind of like touched on it real quickly. So, whatever. And there was a point actually where I just straight up misspoke and then I kind of mumbled a clarification. So, yeah. Because that wasn't the point of the video, so I didn't really care that much. But yes, no, I agree, and that was my intended original point, that if all knowledge of science were lost, then science as it currently exists would not be recoverable. It would be lost because it is a culture. Embedded within it are some like eternal truths. And those eternal truths, however you want to describe them, I don't care, right? The things that are real, that are true, that are whatever word you like, they all have problems. Um, those things that are independent of personal opinions and whatever, uh, those things will come through again. And honestly, when you look at the history of science, most of those came into science from somewhere else in the first place. Science appropriated them from somewhere else, right? Like, uh, like frozen food, right? Taking fresh food, freezing it to preserve it for a long time. That didn't come about because of research. There was like no application of the scientific method there. That was just straight up borrowed from like, Inuits and like Eskimos. I'm not sure which group in particular, but yeah, yeah. Our friends way up north who are now all dying because of the climate changes. Anyway, Or freeze drying. That doesn't come about from research. That was borrowed from Incas, from Inca food storage techniques. And they just, in both of these cases, they were just using the natural environment. So there was some technological requirement in order to bring this into, other regions of the world. Sure. And that's where science sort of kind of gets involved a little bit more. But the fact that those things work, science didn't figure those out. It just straight up stole them. And the fact that people without science, as the modern Western tradition, were able to figure them out, indicates that they're just real things. This is how things really work, right? And there's all sorts of these things, right? Like aspirin. Science didn't discover aspirin. You just like when I'm out in the wilderness, I get a headache or a minor injury or something that's painful. I'll look for a willow tree, take a switch off of it, and like suck on it. That's aspirin, basically. Refine that down a little bit, and you get straight up like real aspirin. That's ancient knowledge, right? That's folk medicine. That the kind of medicine that modern medicine looks down on. Oh, don't do that. Don't. Oh, no. Those herbal remedies don't work. Bullshit. Bullshit. You know. Like any culture or tradition or whatever, they might be overstating the claims sometimes. And some of it might be placebo, sure, but there's definitely, just as within science, there's going to be kernels that are real. And there's going to be some crap. And if we were to throw away the tradition and rediscover things, we're going to find similar or exactly the same kernels. And we're going to also get some crap, right? It might be different crap, and that makes it a different culture. So, if we lose science and then rediscover the important parts, you didn't really lose anything. Because the part that got lost, permanently forever lost, is the random garbage, the noise, the part that you don't want anyway. That's not a loss. Right? And this is why it's strange to me that adherents of science, right? Science fanatics, whatever you want to call them, whatever. Members of the cult of science, members of the cult of scientism, scientists themselves, all of these folks, they have this anxiety about, like, oh, this great researcher, what if he had lived longer? What could he have discovered? Well, either he's going to just make up some random shit, which we don't want anyway, because it's garbage, and we're going to have to filter through that and get rid of it. It's a waste of everybody's time. Or he's going to find something that some other person, any other random person could probably find too, so we don't need him. That's my entire point. So, like, all of the things in science that are named after people, I think that's stupid. Because if it's properly a unique thing put together by this person, then it's not true. It's not a real, it's... it's like my signature is unique to me. My fingerprint is unique to me. Those things, okay, if we lose them or if they never existed in the first place, what loss is that to you? How does that impact the world negatively? It doesn't. It doesn't. So, they're like signature works of of particular researchers and scientists and whatever, that's not valuable from a like rigor and truth perspective. That's valuable from a cultural perspective. And if we're properly interested in rigor and truth, we don't care about that. That's garbage. The and life went on before it was put together, and life will go on after it's lost, right? But the mechanisms that cause life to go on are the true, whatever's happening that makes life possible. I'm not necessarily wed to, like a materialist, mechanist view. That's just the word that I'm using, mechanism, because it, when you think about it, I mean, it kind of works, right? So say you have supernatural things occurring, yeah, they're you can call that a mechanism. I don't really care about the details of what that means. I'm not promoting any specific thing there. All I'm trying to do is point out that there's this weird paradox that appears to be unrecognized within the scientific community, um, in the way that they think and speak about things. They worry about the wrong things, right? If you're worried about, oh, what could this researcher have done, or oh, we need this upcoming person. He's so intelligent and whatever, and we need to foster that and so that whatever he does, we can get that. Well, it's either going to be bullshit or it's going to be just real and anybody could find it. So failing to preserve this crap isn't really a loss. That's that's all. That's all I meant. So yeah, the rebuttal to what I said was actually what I intended to communicate in the first place. I think, if I understand correctly.